Okay, today we're gonna be working on the 2004 Mercury Mountaineer. I replaced the front two hubs, replaced the other rear hub, and now we're gonna do this hub. It's making a big howling noise. Sounds like I got truck tires on this thing. And I thought it was a carriage bearing, but I jacked everything up, the whole car, and it's the rear bearing, I believe. Why I thought that it was a carriage bearing or something else. But like I said, I jacked up the whole car, front and back, put the cruise control on about 30-40 miles an hour, and it just sounds like it's coming from the hub bearing. So, being that I bought both bearings from 1A Auto, I did the other one last week. Okay, first thing you want to do after you take your tire off is put some penetrating oil on here, your lower control arm, toe length, and you might as well put a little penetrating oil on your two caliper bolts, as well as the upper ball joint. Here, you're going to need to get this bolt out. So, okay. I got some noise out there because I got the road crew digging a trench and putting a gas line in. Okay, what you want to do is take your caliper off and hang it up. That's a 10mm bolt on both of them. And then, of course, I put penetrating oil on the spindle nut, top ball joint, and the bottom control arm. Top ball joint, that's an 18mm. Bottom is a 21mm down there, and yeah, down there. And you're gonna want to take your lug nut off on the top. Not lug nut, but your axle nut. That's a 35mm. Don't worry about your toe link yet, because what we're going to do is when we pull this off the axle, we're just going to spin it around and set it on some wood so we can spread that open and get that out. Okay, I took that spring off and here, spread that apart and popped out these emergency brake arms. Okay, I got a puller on here or whatever, and I'm I put a little penetrating oil in here, took off this axle nut, and I'm gonna just kind of push this axle nut all the way through, but just to break it loose, so I can free it up to pull this hub off when I take off the upper ball joint and the lower control arm down there. But yeah, it's going pretty smooth so far. Okay, so the best way to do this is get an impact or something to drive in the back. Once you take that bolt out, spread this apart, and then you can just take a rubber mallet or something and pound this out. But yeah, you gotta take that bolt all the way out, because there's a groove in here where that bolt can go through, and that holds that in. So you got to take that bolt all the way out. And so I'll take the bottom off now. Okay, so now you can see what I mean. You need a couple blocks of wood or something like that, just to roll that over so you don't put too much stress on this toe length. But you roll it over after you pull it off the axle, and that's where you got to spread it open. Take this bolt off, spread it open, and then very carefully pop that out. Okay, okay, it's off. Like I mentioned, now what I did, being that I'm going to press this out myself, I took this clip off, and that, even the other side, they get corroded in there, and if I were to get it pressed out by somebody else, I don't want to pay so much an hour for them to mess around trying to get this out. So I did that myself. Used let me see here, where is it? Yeah, I used this to basically, put that in there, air hammer, and finally got it out. But it's a hard thing to get out. Even the other side, it gets corroded in there. Took my brakes off. Now what I did last time too is, being that I'm going to do this myself, I don't want this dust shield getting in the way, so I just took a cut off wheel, cut that off. So when I'm all done and this is all put back together, I'll screw it back on, basically it just goes on with these, and then I'll tack a piece of metal on both sides with a welder, and that's what I did on the other side. That little whatever. But if you take it in, you don't have to worry about them taking that up. I just did it because I wanted it out of my way. But yeah, I'm going to take this off, and oh, another thing I did, I knocked out them studs to make it easier for me to press it out. And but this whole outer piece, that's a separate piece. There's the bearing, and then there's the outer piece coming through. But yeah, I got both pieces, so I got them at A1 Auto, and actually I got both sides, both pieces for like 65 bucks. So okay, we're gonna go get them pressed out. Set it up to push this first half in. Just get my configuration right. Set it on there. Once it goes in, or once it starts, it'll just roll in. And once it starts, you know, go right in. Okay, I'll stop it and I'll reconfigure that to get it down in there. It's flush. It's got a lip on there, so it'll stop right at that lip. Okay. Put the dust cover back on, and I tacked a couple pieces on each side after I screwed it on, and then I sprayed that zinc enriched weld through primer on it, just to kind of keep it from rusting. And set this on here. I bought me a kit. I already did the other side, but with the new pads on. So get yourself this kit here. It's a brake hardware kit. The shoes on, but you gotta wait until you get it on and get your emergency prongs through before you can put this other spring on. But center them. Get your rotor, set your rotor on. That way you can see if it's pretty close, and so you don't have to fight with that later. Okay, so I set it back down. First thing I did is spread that apart, put the toe link in, tap it down very carefully, bolt it down. And now what I'll do is I'll just roll it over, make sure this goes on top of this, it'll catch underneath the bottom. Put it in your axle, and then put your bottom bolt in right in here. And if you anchor that, and then all you'll have to then basically it's self-explanatory from there. Then just bring your top ball joint in, and your brake, well, we'll take it one step at a time, but right now we're going to roll it over and put it on the axle. Okay, it's top ball joints in, buckle down there, bottom is bolted in, and basically I'm just going to put my rubber boot back through here, and then stick my emergency brake claws through, and then put that spring on there last. And she's all on. Both sides. The most difficult thing to do is when you're changing these pads or these shoes, is this spring right here. That is one stiff bugger. And so to kind of get that in there, so what I did is I pushed these emergency fingers back out, and that way I could move these pads a little bit better to get that spring in, and then I just pried them back a little bit as I pushed these back through and set them in there. So that's how I did it. But yeah, that took me about half an hour just to get that spring in there, and just because of the configuration, it's tight and whatnot. So, and then we're going to put the rotor on, set the calipers, and there we go.